Software-defined networks and network function virtualization have really hit the ground running this year. With our first video in this series, we set out to define the two terms, and we crowdsourced a pretty comprehensive answer. You can view that video by clicking appropriately in the box just below, down there. In this video, Martyn Warwick is asking our pool of experts, what's in all this new technology for telcos? He started with HP's Bethany Mayer. What effect did she think SDN and NFV would have on telco business models?
There's a huge opportunity for service providers in both NFV and SDN, and those concepts and paradigms will kind of meld a little bit together. But basically, the opportunity is for lowering their operational costs primarily. That's probably the biggest opportunity for them. And the second opportunity, which is obviously very key to their business, is the ability to go to market and roll out services very, very quickly. And those two things are basically at the heart of what they do every single day. And the paradigm right now is that their operating expenses are just too high, and it's just not sustainable. And so what's going to happen is they have to look at how they shift that operating model expense within the network environment that they've built and really reconsider all of their options on how they want to do networking, both in their data center as well as out to their customer. And then the other piece is that they're not quick on rolling out services as they need to, and they really need to change that. And NFV provides that opportunity for them.
Service providers are facing some challenges today. Their revenues are growing perhaps in mid-single percent digits, maybe 4 or 5%. The IP traffic is growing perhaps at 40-50%. And beyond that, the signaling traffic is expected to grow at another 4 to 5 times that. So that'll be 200 or 250%. So clearly, there is a disconnect here between where the service providers' revenues are coming and what they are dealing with. So this is where the benefit of SDN and NFV comes in. Firstly, with respect to commoditization of the hardware, switches, servers, and so on, which means that economies of scale can be derived so that they can lower their cost and lower the capital expenditure. The second place would be in the standardization of the hardware and the software so that the boxes can talk to each other much more seamlessly, which will translate to operational expenditure benefits for them. And both of these would directly impact what I stated about their revenue pressure that they have.
When you look at the service providers, they need to make more money, but they need to be much more efficient in terms of how they operate their network. A gentleman from Verizon earlier was saying that the operational costs were an order of magnitude more than the capital costs of the equipment. And so SDN and network function virtualization really promise to reduce the OpEx and perhaps the CapEx, and that's the key benefits for the operators.
SDN and NFV really offer a great opportunity for service providers to jump on the bandwagon of IT and software innovation. Most importantly, it's about business agility, the ability to create new services more easily and with increased margins. But it's also about reducing OpEx and CapEx. As you move functionalities from these devices to the software, your cycles become shorter and you can define services more easily, and service providers can become an integral part of the service development and no longer depend on vendors through long cycles of development.
You look at the savings that you can achieve by doing a couple things. One, moving to standard hardware building blocks that are interchangeable, that are also enabling a model that is more horizontal where you can mix and match the hardware and software. So the capital expenditure there becomes more of a horizontal ecosystem versus having it dependent on a monolithic box that you have to buy that is proprietary to a specific vendor. Second, from a CapEx standpoint, it also helps you potentially to maximize the utilization rates that you can achieve in that box. Because you're able to dynamically load balance with SDN together with NFV in a virtual environment, you can potentially boost up the utilization rates of the boxes that you're actually paying for. The second thing is from an operational expenditure perspective. When you move to a standard set of hardware and software, it becomes much more easier to automate your network. Think of all of the current networking implementations that you have with boxes today that require your technicians to learn a specific CLI command structure. You have to go get trained with those technicians, go to school to get certifications. You additionally have an ability to go and now run what was once a very proprietary box as for example, taking standard IT practices on server-like hardware with virtualization in a way that allows you to be more flexible. Lastly, and this is probably the most important, is new services. So by moving to a structure that you have virtualized your networking infrastructure and moving to a new paradigm where you can move traffic dynamically between these networking boxes in a way that was never before possible in a centralized manner, you can help deploy new services faster than ever and in ways that were never before possible. Into the previous paradigm, you traditionally had to wait to roll out a service based on the speed that you could get the next black box. The black box in this case came with software and hardware loaded in it. You had to wait for that whole stack to come together. Under the new paradigm, you have a horizontal model where you've got hardware and software that's decoupled. You can now do new software releases much faster and quicker and deploy them in a virtualized manner that's much more efficient.
Yes, service providers right now are at an exciting time, but also a challenging time. They have this tremendous asset, which is the network that they've built, and with more and more applications coming onto that network, it's video applications, video on demand, it's 3 screens at home, it's mobile becoming increasingly important. They're right at the center of all of that. But just as they're seeing traffic grow 30, 40, 50% a year, they're not seeing the revenue grow at that same clip. And so they've got to reconcile that, which means they have to run their network more efficiently, so kind of look internally and figure out how do we operate the network more efficiently. And if they can, they need to try to drive more revenue from that network to monetize the different elements of that network.